Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the news that amidst the severe national crises that our country faces, most of which are the result of politicians in Westminster, those same politicians in Westminster are now spending time working out how they can help people struggling for work more. No, not the unemployed. No, not public sector workers either. No, those same MPs when they lose their seats at the next election. A committee is actually spending time working out how they can help MPs more and feel more appreciated. Couldn't make it up. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, the Commons Administration Committee of MPs has decided that perhaps more needs to be done to help MPs who lose their seats. Now, before I get onto the aspects of this I take exception to, which there are many, I will say that yes, when an MP loses their job, it's often quite unlike when other people lose their job. An MP fighting for a marginal seat, they stay up all night hoping that they'll get to keep that job. They don't really know if they will or not. Sometimes there are shock results. Sometimes they expect to keep their job and then they don't. Immediately, they need to find more work. The media focuses often on the MPs who are quite wealthy, and there are some very wealthy MPs who really don't need to find work anytime soon. But some of them will come from ordinary backgrounds. They may live in expensive parts of the country and they weren't necessarily able to put a lot aside whilst MPs. And it can be difficult for people like this to find work after being a former MP. I'll be honest. If I were on an interview panel, I would not say I'd rule it out, but I'd be very hesitant about appointing a former MP of any party to a normal job like a teacher, for example. You'd want to be very sure they're not up their own arse after having held such high office. We don't want them to become like a staff room bore. And also, you don't want their very forceful partisan views, which they will have as an MP, upsetting colleagues or customers. So in theory, having more of a safety net for MPs who've just lost their job, yeah, that makes sense. You go, okay, fair enough, fine. But although I have a certain sympathy for their plight, there are a whole range of objections I have to their proposals as well. Let's go through them. The first is the timing. The committee, like all parliamentary committees, of course, is made up of a majority of Tory MPs because the Tories have a very large majority of the seats in Parliament. So they basically boss every committee. Why are they only now concerning themselves with the fate of MPs who lose their seats when they're getting ready to lose them themselves? Why wasn't this a concern when they were winning elections? Bit of a coincidence that it didn't occur to them to care about this issue over the past 13 years when it was mostly MPs from other parties who were at serious risk of losing their seats. My second objection is the optics. See, one of the suggestions is that former MPs get 18 months of job advice. On the face of it, you think, well, this is fine. That's fine. No problem with that. But then you think, hang on a minute. Why doesn't everyone who's struggling to find work get job advice anyway? If the Tories are so keen to get people into work, which they say they are, it's not just a case of making work pay, which they don't do either. It's a case of helping to train people. And I don't just mean the skills and qualifications for specific work, which they're also not doing, but general help to find and adapt to the workplace. If the Department for Work and Pensions was actually working properly, it would be offering job advice to anyone who needed it as a public service. The MPs would need to have this facility specifically assigned to them, can only be because it's a service denied to other people. And I'll be damned if I support a public service being given to some people and not others, especially when it's former MPs who have denied that same service to other citizens who find themselves in similar situations. My third objection is the Tory hypocrisy smashing me in the face here. What is it that Conservatives, even moderate ones, say about people who struggle to find work? Oh, they just need to apply themselves more. Get up earlier, look smart, work hard. People who struggle for work are really only struggling for motivation. That's what they say. That's what they've been saying for decades. In order to deny that poverty exists in the UK, they label anyone struggling to afford the cost of living, even now, as unmotivated. So how on earth can a Tory MP, the very people who constantly bang this message, possibly say they need support to help find work after losing their seat? My fourth objection relates to the justification from the committee that in order to attract good quality candidates to Parliament, they need extra support like this, to let MPs know that when they become MPs and then they're not MPs anymore, that they will be supported. Mate, over the past 13 years, these MPs have systematically destroyed all of our public services, and I mean all of them, as they're basically admitting themselves, even the job centre doesn't work. They've trashed our international reputation, destroyed whatever little trust may have existed in politics, and divided our society. I think we would be better served attracting MPs who didn't think the job was going to unlock a life of riches, comfort and safety nets for them, in all honesty. And my fifth and final objection is just the sheer state of some of the specific suggestions. Some of their proposals, as I say, they're fine in themselves, with my only objection being that they should not just be available to former MPs, but anyone struggling to find work for whatever reason. But some of them are just ridiculous. One proposal is to help MPs fill in a sort of record of achievement during their time in Parliament, where they're helped to note down the skills they've gained in Parliament. Oh, well done there. You walked through the correct lobby door. That's a skill. We'll put that on your record of achievement. And at the end of it, oh, they've got this record that they can then turn into some sort of CV. I'm sorry. Someone who cannot, off their own back, recognise the skills that they are developing in whatever period of their life and use them to construct a suitable CV for future employment has absolutely no place in Parliament. In Parliament, these MPs are deciding on extremely complex matters. These people should not be MPs. The absolute state of suggesting that not just one or two, there must be large numbers of MPs who do not feel confident that they could write a CV or resume for our American friends. That is appalling. You're basically saying it's easier to become an MP than to get a normal job. I know I've described quite a lot of career politicians in Parliament as unemployable, but it takes the piss when they're admitting it themselves. Another suggestion was a special ceremony to mark their contribution to public life. Pat on the back, well done, well done. Here's a list of your achievements. Piss off. Their contribution is the whole-scale destruction of our country. That's why they're finally about to be shown the door. Special ceremony, my arse. And a medal! A medal! A proposal to give them a medallion of service. For what? Services to Russia? Let Putin give them a pissing medal. He can pay for it. Now, anything an MP needs when losing their seat is also needed by people struggling right now in other aspects of life. They don't have to be former MPs to be struggling to find work, do they? Give support to everyone. Former MPs do not need anything special. They may have particularly unique circumstances because the label of being a former MP, I alluded it to myself. Yes, that can be a barrier, but everyone has their own special needs when looking for work. Give everyone the help and support they need, or give it to nobody. You know, MPs who couldn't be asked to fund this support for ordinary citizens, they can do without it themselves. As for the medal and the fancy dinner, I can do one. In what other job do you get a special leaving ceremony and a medal for getting the sack? Doesn't matter whether it was justified or not getting the sack. In what other job would you get a special ceremony for basically being sacked? They're living on another planet, aren't they? What's happening here is you've got a load of Tory MPs. They never cared about the people they're supposed to be representing. Never. They've enjoyed their seat by the trough on the gravy train. Now they're worried that they're going to become ordinary citizens once more. Oh, how awful. Some of them may never have had a real job. They may have gone straight into politics. What this is a concern for themselves amidst a national crisis. That is what should be occupying their minds right now. The crisis of their own making. And they're concerned for their own circumstances, their own immediate future. Can hardly think of a more apt example of the selfishness of many of the politicians we have. Absolute state of these ideas. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.